I've seen Markiplier's new movie, Iron Lung, and I've got some thoughts. Today I went to the infamous TCL Chinese Theater, where all the movies and such premiere here in LA, to see Markiplier and what he's been up to the last couple of years. His passion project, Iron Lung. I took the game from the office and we got to hang out with about 1 billion screaming Markiplier fans. Having worked in the past with Mark at the Game Station and Polaris, the closest I ever really came to being anywhere near his success level was seeing his first video and being like, yo, that guy's gonna be huge. And I would say I was right, especially considering this movie was originally going to be released to 60 theaters here in the States, and now, because of fan outpouring of love and contacting all the different movie theaters around the world, I think it's like 4,100 screens worldwide. That's huge. That's massive for sort of a movie that really, and one of the reasons I wanted to go see it, isn't a big studio thing. It is a passion project by Mark, self-funded. He writes, he directs, he does the whole thing, he acts, he's the star, clearly. And this is one for the fans. So I really want to see what this was going to end up being like without all the studio execs in the boardrooms and everyone telling him what he should be doing. It's really what he wanted to do. So I had to go. This isn't like a sponsored thing or anything like that. This is literally just curiosity and me wanting to see what he came up with. And that's what's so impressive. It's a grassroots thing. It's fandom based, where this is clearly something for the fans and the fans really wanted it. I can't help but see that as a win for him and for all of the people that love Markiplier. So already doing very well. And the movie officially comes out on Friday. But anyway, you're here for a review, so let's get into it. Based off a video game with the same name, which Markiplier had a significant role in helping get the word out on and spread its popularity with his Let's Plays. It even has a Markiplier mode built into the game as a thank you. Sometime in the future, every known star and habitable planet vanishes. The only people still alive are those on space stations and starships. This becomes known as the Quiet Rapture. And for the sake of humanity's survival, everyone that's left is traveling the cosmos looking for any resources they can find on the barren moons that are still around. That doesn't necessarily mean that, like, the sky is dark and it's just a void now. There's still stars, but the, like, cool existential dread aspect of it is that those are potentially long dead stars just because of how light travels. That they're kind of these ghost stars that light the night sky, which is very cool. The whole concept is eldritch as hell. I love that about the game. It's really cool. Eventually, in a very eldritchy twist, like I was saying, moons are discovered that have oceans of blood. Like I think there are 4 that we know of in the game. Without much else in the way of information, you're told that the player, you, are a convict who will be exploring one such moon, AT5, for the greater good to repay your debt to society. Sealed inside a small submarine nicknamed the Iron Lung, you're told if you do your missions and you do them successfully, you'll earn your freedom. And that's the setup for the game, and exactly the setup for the movie. It is pretty much one-to-one the entire time that you are watching this thing. If you played the game, you're gonna be like, the entire time. Like, the sub itself is exactly like the one in the game. Everything's kind of where it's supposed to be. All the instruments, everything looks pretty accurate to the game. Obviously, it's in much greater fidelity and slightly tweaked to be better visuals for a movie. But, like, everything is, the map, the where stuff is in the ship, even the fire extinguisher is in the same place it is in the game. It is pretty one-to-one, and we, the audience, are locked in the Iron Lung with the convict, in this case, played by Markiplier, and credited as Markiplier, which got some cheers from the crowd, because it's just Markiplier appears on screen, which was very funny. It just wasn't his real name, it was his screen name, and it was cute. So yeah, the movie's literally us watching Markiplier in this sub lose his mind for 2 hours. In fact, I'd say 97% of the screen time is just Mark. So him writing and directing makes a ton of sense. From start to finish, it's very clear it's a passion project. And it needs to be, because Mark 100% is carrying this entire movie. Everything you like or dislike about it is really on him, because the whole thing relies on him being able to act his heart out. I will say, though, There's a lot of heavy lifting being done by cinematographer Philip Roy and composer Andrew Hulshult. They really nailed it. The music is just that perfect kind of creepy, ambient, gets louder and like more aggressive as time goes on, kind of horror style. Cinematography, I cannot stress this enough how good it was. When the movie first starts, we get a wide shot of the sub. And that wide shot, it made me worried because it had the lighting and film quality of like a really good YouTube video. And part of me was like, uh-oh. Are we about to see just a YouTube video on the big screen? Is that what this is going to be? But it's not. It's just that one wide shot, which establishes sort of the way the sub looks on the inside. You notice this isn't a $100 million production. It's noticeable in that shot. But from that point on, every other shot of the sub is really well crafted. Angles, looking down, looking up, looking through grates. It feels like we're a voyeur in what he's doing. And we're watching him slowly lose it. And that I loved. The way this movie was shot was great. But aside from that one shot and just a little tiny bit of the ending, which we'll talk about in the spoiler section later, I really like the cinematography of this movie. I was pretty impressed. It's one of those that keeps you on edge by the use of the camera and how they're filming it, which is needed. Honestly, needed in this movie. And going back to the music, it fits perfectly with the way they're trying to make this movie claustrophobic and scary and using the camera to give you this sense of dread. But with all that scary stuff said, I don't necessarily think I would qualify this as a scary movie. It's a horror movie, but more dread and impending doom and like the curious nature of what is that? What's out there? What is that? Like the lack of answers to questions, that kind of scary. Again, very eldritch horror, very galactic horror, where answers aren't really what you're after. You're there for the experience of being like, maybe there are no answers in an unforgiving universe. Like that kind of thing. But like I was saying, the vast majority of this film is Mark. No matter what the music or the camera angles or whatever, it's just Mark. And much of that is him grunting or diddling with knobs or saying fuck in frustration numerous times. But like, he's doing it, man. There are moments where he genuinely got laughs out of me. Moments where I felt like, damn, this man can act. And moments where I was really invested. There were also some moments where I wondered, like, what would this scene have been if it was an A-list actor? Like, I must stress, Mark is good in this. He might be one of the best YouTubers turned actors or YouTubers who dabbled in acting out there. He's better than me, that's for sure. And the movie, I can safely say, is on the better end of the spectrum of YouTuber dabbling in cinema. It's good. It's a good movie. But with that said, my reason for the I wonder what this would have been like with another actor comment is the first part of the movie is slow. Like, really slow. It's all built up for an insane ending, and while Mark, again, is good, he spends much of this time world building for the audience to learn the insides and outs of the sub and what the mission is, and it's just slow. A kid near me fell asleep during this part. We're talking 20 minutes in. And even some people I went to see the movie with mentioned that they didn't really start getting into it until the last half. I think as a Markiplier fan, you'll love getting to see your boy do his thing on the big screen during the beginning. Hell, even I enjoyed it simply because I was watching someone I know, even slightly, on the big screen living his dream. But it is 100% Markiplier. It's not the convict. It's like when you see Tom Cruise in a movie. No matter what Tom Cruise is playing, it's still just Tom Cruise being Tom Cruise living the dream. And that's kind of the vibe here. It is clearly Markiplier trapped in a sub. We are watching Markiplier go insane. And if you're not a fan of Markiplier or know his work, you're kind of just sitting around waiting for something to happen. And that's some of the people that were with me. And they were just like, when is it going to pick up? What's about to happen? It was really just kind of like, look, it's Mark on the big screen. Which, again, was fine for me, but I understand why some people were like, that was a really slow beginning, dude. But that's the movie. It is a slow burn to pure insanity at the end. Again, it's that eldritchy, cosmic-y horror. It's unknowable. It's bizarre. It's weird. It's jarring and shocking, and you're going to be like, huh? that's kind of the vibe. But as a person who loves asking questions and trying to figure stuff out and being like, what does that mean? That's how I was the last half of the movie, which honestly is the right place for me. That's why I enjoyed it so much. But going back to camera work, I mentioned earlier that the end of the movie, I had some issues with it as well. I'm not going to spoil anything here, but during the end, there's a lot of stuff going on. But I think much like the camera work they were doing by filming at angles and through grates and stuff, covered the fact that it wasn't a $100 million movie. I think at the end, they did that too with shaky cam. I hate shaky cam. I've never been a fan of it, but I understand its uses. You can hide a lot of things by just shaking the camera, and I feel like if the camera wasn't shaking, things that were on screen would have looked a little goofier, and so the shake adds like, it's overwhelming, and this is crazy, and what's going on? I get it. I'm just not a fan of shaky cam, and even though I know what happened at the end, if you asked me to describe to you in detail, I couldn't. Because it was really hard to follow. It was dark. The set is brown. There's a lot of red everywhere. Mark's clearly doing something, but it's a lot of I'm piecing it together. Probably on rewatches, it's a lot easier to understand. But for me in the theater, I was like, okay, I think I understand what's happening. But again, shaky cam, I've never been a fan when it's used in any movies. I understand why it's used. I just don't like it. Thankfully, it was only in really that one part at the end. In addition to Mark, I said he was in 97% of the movie. The other 3% is given to people like Carolyn Rose Kaplan, who is the voice in the comms. And then there are other voices and things happening in the movie. I think Troy Baker, Jacksepticeye, Valkyrie, a whole bunch of people are doing cameos in this. I don't want to spoil what that means. You'll have to watch and figure it out yourself. But it isn't like Jacksepticeye shows up and goes, top of the morning. Like, that does not happen. But these are actors acting. And if you were to tell me, Jesse, who did they play? I don't think I could actually tell you because it gets really bizarre at the end. And when the movie ended, I was pretty happy. I enjoyed it. There were some people in my group that were like, it was too long, or it was all right. But I feel like maybe that's part of the problem with passion projects. You want it to be so perfect to show the world why you love a thing that perhaps something you could have cut or should have cut, you just left in. And the funny thing is, I know for a fact that if I were to say that to Markiplier and be like, you should have cut this scene, he'd probably be able to explain to me why he didn't and why it was so important. That's just the nature of passion projects. It's like, no, you don't understand. This is needed. The reason I think, I wonder what another actor would do with this is because the beginning's so slow. I'm curious what other, big A-lister actors would have brought to those slow moments that would have made it a little more dynamic and a little more interesting for those in the crowd. And maybe that's one of the differences between going with like big studios and doing a thing yourself, is having those extra eyes be like, I don't know, but that's the back and forth. And I like that we got sort of the director's cut, right? We got to see Mark's vision, and I'm fine with that. I like that. I completely understand. Hell, there's videos I make on a much smaller scale that are like that. Probably could cut a bunch of stuff, but I'm like, no, this is important. And it will be important to his fans and to fans of the game. This is definitely one for them. This is for the fans. I don't think it's going to get, critical acclaim or be the next massive movie, but I do think it's going to make those who spent their childhoods watching Mark be very happy. And that's precisely what he set out to do. So I consider this a huge win for him. So if you're going to see it, enjoy. I know you will. It's why you bought the tickets. But now we're going to get into spoilers. Don't worry. I will wait for you to leave. Okay, so for those of you who are still here, let's talk spoilers. I've written down the plot. I have notes. I'll be honest. I need to use my notes. And the reason why is because the movie takes place in one set and everything kind of looks the same, getting the order of operations and how things happen and when they happened was really hard. But again, it's a movie where everything's kind of trippy and weird, so don't hold it against me if you see the movie and like, well, actually that happened before that, Jesse. It's roughly the same thing. I'm trying, okay? The movie starts with us getting an intro that is basically the intro to the game. It's saying this is the quiet Rapture, this is what's happening, and we then are introduced to Markiplier, who is in the sub, sitting in this like crappy makeshift chair at the console, as a voice comes over the loud system, the speaker, the PA, that's like explaining what's going on. It's the voice of, I was about to say Kaplan, Carolyn Rose Kaplan, who is the captain of the ship that we never really see, but a spaceship of some sort. And Markiplier is the convict. He is being punished for something he did. We're not really sure. It's clearly bad because he now needs to get redemption or repay his debt to society by going in this sealed shut sub with one little porthole that is also shielded by a window thing that he can open and close. And he must go into one of the blood moons and find resources or something. It's not quite clear. All he knows is that he has a map with points on it that he must go to, take photos, and report back. And if he does so, he believes he will earn his freedom. And he asks her, if I do all this, I'm going to earn my freedom. And either him being lowered in cuts off the communications, or she doesn't respond. We're not really quite sure. And he looks like, you're going to let me go? And there's nothing. So the first part of this movie is literally us just watching him get accustomed to the ship, learning about how it works, looking through manuals, diddling with all the different things, and every once in a while grunting and or swearing at himself as he tries to figure it all out. Because he can't really see outside the ship, he's using the knobs and dials and map to navigate via coordinates. And there's a little sensor thing around his compass that lights light up when anything's near him. I assume that's supposed to be for walls and things of that nature, but very quickly, that is not the case. Anyway, he figures out that he can see outside the ship by pressing a button that takes photos around him. And as he does, you can see he's at the bottom of this blood sea, and it's very weird. There's like weird stuff down there. And I will say it's very fun watching Mark do his like reaction face to weird stuff happening around him. And as he explores the depths, we get more of Mark discovering things about the sub. For some reason, it's extremely hot, and there's like condensation dripping from the walls, and some of it's blood. So maybe there's a leak. We're not really quite sure, but we're told it's sealed shut and sealed tight, right? And so he's taking photos and trying to figure out what's going on, going point to point to point, doing his job, right? He's not happy, but he's doing his job. However, as he takes photos, he notices that there's a skeleton or something down there. But maybe it's not just a skeleton, maybe it's alive. And it's stalking him and watching him and swimming around him. And it gives that sense of like, oh, you better get out of there, Mark. And for those who are curious, the best way to describe the creature is it's similar to the one from the game, but also not. It's a little more human looking, a little more weird and creepy, like a mix between a human and an anglerfish. Very bizarre, but also massive. I think massive. I don't like it. Size is a thing that it's very Godzilla-esque in that sometimes it's big and sometimes it's a little creepy boy looking in a cave like, what's up? He eventually reestablishes the signal with the ship above, and he hears the captain again and explains like, hey, I've been doing what you told me to do, and I found some weird-ass thing that may be a skeleton. I don't know. It feels like something's down here with me. And she's like, what do you mean you found a skeleton? And he's like, I'm telling you, I found something. And she's like, okay, we're going to pull you up, and we're going to attach a thing to the front of your ship, and we want you to ram it. The next time you see it, ram it, get us a sample of whatever the hell that is, and then bring it back to us. And he's like, huh? They pull him up. I actually really like this because up until this point, it's just all been Mark and a VO talking out of an intercom system. So they pull him up, he's back on the ship, the porthole opens, and we can see for the first time other people. In this case, Kaplan's there, and she's wiping the bloody porthole to talk to him, and she's all scarred up. And so there's definitely some like world building going on. She's kind of a mess. And in the background, I think it's Troy Baker studying the photos he took of this creature. And then there's another guy, I didn't get to see who it was. He is sort of the mechanic attaching and welding this harpoon spear thing to the front of his ship. Anyway, they have a conversation, and we learn a little bit more about his backstory, her backstory, the fact that she's with the Consolidation of Iron, which is this group of ships and captains, and like they're a group working together in this apocalyptic future. And he is from Eden, which is this other faction that apparently has the last trees, I guess. And something happened on Filament Station, and he was there, and he's being punished for that. Apparently it's been destroyed, right? Anyway, they get in an argument, they have this whole thing, and he's like, you promised you'd let me out. I'm up here, let's go. And she's like, we could get you out of there, but because you're welded in, if we do that, it would take so much time to get you back in and re-weld it. It's not worth it. We're going to put this thing on the front and send you right back down, and then we'll pull you up. And he's like, and then I'm free? And they're like, maybe. They don't say a damn thing, you know what I mean? They just drop him back down, which of course pisses him off even more because the convict has no real answers, and it seems like he's just being used and is going to die down there, especially when something is swimming around him and he can hear it, and it sounds terrifying and is pure thalassophobia for those of you who do not enjoy that stuff. But the one really interesting thing about that scene when he goes up and meets these characters is that he presses the button for the photos, right? And he blasts the room with X-rays, radiation. Turns out the photos, because he's taking photos through blood, are basically just blasting it with the radiation so he can see things. And so he irradiates the captain and the guy right next to the ship and Troy Baker, I think. And yeah, immediately they're hit with radiation sickness. The guy working on the ship is definitely going to die. They hint like, yeah, no, you killed that dude. And when he tries to apologize, when Mark's character, the convict, tries to apologize, she's like, well, you can tell it to my tumors, you know? Like, he really messed them up, and he's like, I didn't know, you should have told me, we should have talked about this. And when he goes back in the water, the voice on the intercom isn't the woman anymore. She's taken the guy who was right next to the ship to the infirmary. Instead is Troy Baker's character, who is like, yeah man, look, I agree, we probably should have told you more, but our bad, just do your damn job, get down there and work on this thing. And he gets in a fight with Troy Baker, and it's that kind of thing. But the reason I bring up that scene specifically is because it brings up questions, right? The idea of him taking the photos underwater, seeing weird skeletons. Are they actually weird skeletons, or just what the camera can see, right? If when he takes a photo of the room above and we see the skeletons of the humans in the room, we now have to ask, is it really skeletons in the water? Or, well, blood, I guess it's not water. Is it really skeletons in the blood ocean? Or is it actually something living and that's just what the photos can see? The movie continues to play with all of this in this space of making you ask questions about what is real and what is really happening, right? The oxygen in the ship, you can see it depleting over time. Is that what's causing him to go crazy? There's one moment where he gets hurt, and instead of dressing his wounds, he finds rubbing alcohol and just... a shirtless Markiplier drinks rubbing alcohol to the cheers of many in the crowd. But like, did that mess him up? They keep doing that. They keep playing with that and making us ask, not only is what he's seeing actually happen, but also is what they're telling him actually the truth, right? They don't answer his questions. They keep him in the dark. What is he actually doing down there? Maybe they really are just giving him this tomb and they're sending him to do a bunch of stupid stuff, and this is his punishment, right? Maybe there isn't anything going on. Maybe there isn't some plan to save humanity. I don't know. You don't know. The convict doesn't know, and that's kind of where we're at. And this really starts to pick up now that we are back under the ocean, and the skeleton, it's not where it was before. And more importantly, the convict is seeing stuff out of the corner of his eye. Weird, I don't even know how to describe it, like some creature in the back of the sub in this dark corner. And he's like, what? He goes over to investigate, and thankfully with the light that turns on when you see the big picture, when you press the big button, it takes a photo of the outside, that light shows in that corner there's nothing there. Is he hallucinating? What's going on? While he's looking there, he discovers a fuse box situation that he unscrews, and inside there are a bunch of wires and a keepsake, a charm of some sort that is clearly from someone from Eden, or someone that is from his faction, because he recognizes it. He calls whoever it was his brother, someone who was a part of that, who was probably a convict before him, despite the fact that the captain told him that he's the first person who's been down there, right? So there's lying to him. This is another lie. and he finds this note, and the note says cross the wires. So he crosses the wires, and a console, a computer screen in the back, turns on. And on it is a voice recording that someone left, probably the person who left him that note, who basically says, look, this is a doomed thing. When they send you down here, they send you to die. You are being punished, but at least when you're down here, you can be free. It's the last thing you have, your freedom from them in this sub, and you can kind of decide how you live, how you die, that kind of thing. There's also other stuff on the computer, he just doesn't have access to it, and we'll get to that later. He then takes some time to look around the rest of the sub and find other stuff he may have missed. He finds a locker that has a life preserver in it, which is, he's like, what am I gonna do with a life jacket? What do you mean? It also has water in it. It has the rubbing alcohol that I mentioned before. It's just the bandages, things like that, things that he would need. He discovers that as well, but eventually goes back to his mission of like, I'm gonna find this thing and I'm gonna ram the shit out of it. And he does. But when he does, the thing gets pissed. And so as he's attempting to go back to the surface or to whatever depth he can contact them at, this creature, this thing, whatever it is, attacks him. And right when he's communicating with them about how he has this sample, he is cut off from them or dragged down or something happens where he passes out. And when he wakes up, he is somewhere off the map. The power is off, the ship is sitting at the bottom of the blood ocean, and aside from the camera, which gives some light, which is actually done really well, it's a very cool kind of like horror game moment of using a camera flash to see. So you expect a lot of like, oh, is there gonna be something creepy? Not really. He uses the scissors from the storage cabinet to open a floor panel and get underneath the ship in like a crawl space. And at the very end is an engine restart that he has to crank. The one cool thing here is that as he's under there and the light's going off because he tapes it down and it keeps going off again and again, he hears footsteps above him and he sees a shadow, like something is in there with him. And it's really creepy. It's a very cool moment. Maybe that thing that was in the corner is actually real. Anyway, he pops his head up. He looks around. There's not a damn thing there. There's nothing going on. Is it just him? Maybe it's something that we can't see. I don't know, but you're left with a lot of questions. But there's no big scares, nothing happening there. It's just really weird. So he gets the power back on the ship. And then at this point, he's in a place he doesn't know where he's at. He has no idea what to do. But in one of my favorite modern movie tropes, I love it. It's very Matt Damon in The Martian. He just sciences the shit out of it. He's like, I'm not dying down here. He starts making his own maps, exploring areas where no one else has been. He's off the map, which I think is a really fun thing for the game, because a lot of people, while exploring the files of the game, tried to go kind of off the map and see stuff. And there was stuff out there, which I think is very creative, and so that's what he's doing in this, is he's going off the map trying to find things. And as he's doing that and mapping a new area as he explores, when he takes photos, whatever it is, that creature's kind of like poking through cave walls, is like, what's up over, what you doing? And he's getting closer and moving far away, and it's clear that he's being watched. We're not sure in what capacity. Is the thing curious? What's going on here? We don't know, but there's clearly a thing watching him. And while he's exploring and mapping this new area, while his weird under-blood ocean friend watches, he discovers a sub that is sunk to the bottom, SM8. And his computer terminal connects to it and attempts to download stuff, except he doesn't have the credentials or the password to do it. It's actually a really funny scene where he tries to hack it and he does like, password. And that doesn't work. And he's like, password 1. I thought that was very cute. It got a laugh from the crowd. But he can't connect to it. But he recognizes it as something important. Then a voice comes over the loudspeaker and is like, hey, we're stuck down here. Are you down here to save us? Who are you? What's going on? It's a panicked voice of a woman who I think is supposed to be a scientist or someone. She's an explorer who is with a crew, right? She keeps saying we, unless this is one of those creepy, weird horror things where she means we, but it's like a universal because we're all monsters now kind of thing, or we're all like a blood ocean. Whatever the case may be, she's like, we need your help. And he's like, oh, I'm just a convict that was sent down here. I thought you were too. And she's like, oh, which is not a great sign. When the other person who's trapped down there is like, oh, right, no, you're definitely gonna die down here. We're probably all gonna die down here. You know it's bad news. What's interesting is the interaction between the two and the fact that we just learn more. We're actually getting information now. We learn more about Eden and what their deal is. Apparently they are really into trees, and their whole thing is like, when we die, we fertilize the trees to keep the trees going. They aren't necessarily like an end of the universe cult situation, but it seems like they've accepted their fate, which Mark doesn't want to do. He doesn't accept this. He really wants to live. That's his whole character thing. He wants to live. He doesn't understand why people are just giving up. And apparently he was on Filament Station, which was destroyed, and kind of everyone knows about it. And I guess Eden attacked Filament Station, which was a COI thing, and it was destroyed. And Markiplier's character, the convict, was there, and something happened. He says he's not to blame, but he clearly was involved in some way, right? That's the most answers we're gonna get on that. But the woman on the other end is like, yeah, all right, and quickly moves the conversation along, explaining that while down here, she and potentially her crew, the We, discovered something that can change the universe. The origin of the quiet rapture, maybe? Some light. She starts talking about this light, and she's like, you have to see it for yourself. It is the thing we need. It's going to change everything. You have to believe me. Please go to these coordinates, and I will show you myself. And he's like, okay, yeah, no, I'll do it. If this is going to get me out of here, like, yeah, yes, if this can help the world, the universe, I would love to do that. The scientist also explains a fact that I think is super weird and super creepy, that the sea, this ocean of blood, is all human blood, which is very strange. And you have to wonder, is that all the planets are human blood? Or the 4 moons with blood oceans, is it all human blood? And for what purpose? What Evangelion purpose is this? But ignoring that very weird fact for now, he continues on his mission to learn the truth. So he arrives at the coordinates, and he sees what I best can describe to you as kind of like either a blinding vision of an angel or some angelic being or an otherworldly being or a portal that's just very white. I don't know. It's a bright light that has kind of a shape to it. And the woman on the comms, the potential scientist, whoever it is, comes on the comms again and starts being very erratic and very crazy. And he's like, this is what I wanted you to see, Simon. This is why you're here. And the convict realizes, of course, he never said his name to nobody. And how does this person know his name, especially in the blood ocean? What's the deal there? And he realizes something isn't right. He goes up to the comms unit, to the speaker, and he pulls out the fact that it hasn't been connected and has been absolutely broken in some capacity for a while. And we now realize this thing that's been talking to him is in his head. Potentially, the monster swimming around him can communicate and is leading him to this spot. A very trippy scene occurs where, like, the light shines into the sub, and it's sort of like, you know that scene in Interstellar where Anne Hathaway reaches out and kind of touches something as they pass through the wormhole? Kind of like that, where there's this sort of weird, goopy residual effect going across half the ship. And eventually, it appears the ship ruptures, and the convict Simon is now in a massive blood ocean, but it's like maybe like ankle deep or something, like, or waist deep, and he's chained to it, and he's covered in blood. And as he looks up, there is God, I don't even know how to describe this. Like either an eye or a void with an eye, but also maybe like a jagged maw, like very eldritch, I don't know what I'm looking at, thing in the sky. And it looks like it is either going to suck up the world or has sucked up the world, or I don't even know. And then he is sucked right back to the ship, almost like nothing happened. Waking up in his sub, once again, he sees someone sitting in the only chair on the sub. And when it turns around, it is like a person made of teeth and mouths. It's awful looking. And he hides in the dark corner and finds, I think, like a screwdriver or something, and he's gonna attack it, and when he pops back out, nothing there. And then the speaker crackles to life again, and this time it's the captain from the ship, and he's like, it can't be you. There's no way it can be you. And she's like, dude, we thought you were dead. It's been days. The oxygen should have run out. How are you still alive? What are you doing? What's happening? He's like, you're not real. None of this is real. and he goes to look at the speaker box, and the wire isn't cut. It's perfectly fine. So now you're wondering, what is real? Because at this point, I wouldn't even guess what really is happening. And so he has a conversation with her, and he's panicked and he's freaking out, and she's like, dude, calm down. It's me. I know you. And he's like, fine, what's my name? And she's like, and she admits she doesn't know his name, which is actually kind of reassuring to him because it goes back to the idea that the COI does not care about him, and it grounds him a little bit. And so he explains what's been happening, where he's been, what he's seen, and the fact that he found the SM-8, which the captain is excited about because if he can connect to that, whatever that research vessel discovered, they can use that information and potentially, based on what he's seen, save all of mankind. If this really is a clue to the quiet rapture, to everything going on, we should investigate this. We need to send you back down. And he's like, what do you mean? She's like, I will go down there in a sub of my own and meet you to make sure we get this out of here. And then I promise you, you will be free. She's like, Simon, I'm going to set you free. And then she says, my name's Ava. And they share that moment of like, okay, we're in this together. And right at this moment, we finally hit like a mission. Like he's got 30 minutes to go down, get it, and get back up. But of course, in that 30 minutes, his sub is falling apart. It is a mess. He's hallucinating. We're getting flashbacks of his time on the filament station and in Eden. We're seeing all sorts of weird images. The walls of the ship are getting like more and more bloody and goopy over time. And it appears like veins are forming inside the ship, kind of like probably like a real iron lung. You even at one point see the oxygen level go up, which seems weird. And you're like, maybe that's not real. I don't know what's going on. So he's hallucinating as he heads back down to the ship. Anyway, he gets back down there, and as he hacks into the ship, because he has all the information now, an audio log is sent to him. And this audio log is of the same voice he heard over the loudspeaker when he was by that ship. But very clearly we realize now that the person speaking is obviously dead. They were in a ship that's destroyed at the bottom of a blood ocean. And you can hear that, yeah, there was a crew. Someone on the crew apparently ate or drank whatever the blood goop was and is retching, and they're like, why'd you do that, dummy? And it's basically the last audio recording of a crew dying. It's pretty awful. And they have discovered something. He downloads all the information and he takes it back up. But as he does, he's being harassed by this creature. It's chasing him through the caverns. And when he gets up to the top, the captain is in the ocean with him in another sub, and she's frantically like, please, send it over, do this thing. And he can't really figure out why she's acting the way she is until he takes a photo, and the creature has her sub in its jaws. And she screams at him to get the information to the people right before she is crushed to death by the monster. Now the monster is harassing him and is like, don't you see, very monstery things like, you belong here with us, and what do you think you're gonna do? Try to save the universe, that kind of stuff. It shakes his ship and jostles it as more and more vine blood goop thing is growing inside, to the point where when he touches the walls, he becomes attached to it, and the vines start connecting to him, and his body starts morphing and getting really weird looking as he slowly starts to get corrupted by these vines. And he tries to pull himself apart. And this is where the shaky cam I was talking about comes into effect, where it's just jostling the entire time. So it's really hard to tell what's going on in some parts because it's also dark and blood is rapidly filling the ship. And it's hard to tell what's going on in some parts. But what definitely happens is he becomes attached so badly to the ship that he has to rip his arm off to escape. And then, while he's bleeding out and he's sitting there in the blood as it starts to fill up, he realizes that he should take the life jacket, the life preserver, and tape his own black box, which he goes under the thing and grabs and tapes to it. As blood, by the way, is filling up the entire thing. So there was a whole scene where he's climbing through the same shaft under the ship, and he's like, blood is everywhere, and he's choking on it, and he's trying to escape, and he does that whole like pop out of, you think he's dead, but he pops out of the blood, like, right? And then as he's like his arms ripped off, and he's getting corrupted by all this goop, he puts the black box, the data recorder, whatever downloaded, tapes it to the life preserver, and then as a last FU to the creature, opens the porthole, depressurizes the ship, it explodes or implodes or whatever, and he dies. The last shot is the top of the blood ocean and the black box and the life preserver floating there, and then a light from, I would assume, a ship, maybe a COI ship, whatever. Maybe Troy Baker's still up there and he sees it, and that's when it ends. So unlike the game where it ends with a nothing was recovered, nothing's going on, this is a hopeful ending that, like, okay, maybe something will come of this. But also, maybe not. Maybe it's just, if they get that black box, they turn it on, it's countless recordings of people going crazy, right? Maybe there was actually nothing ever down there. It was just all weird, eldritch, mind effery. And, yeah, when they listen to it, when Troy Baker turns that thing on, it's going to be nothing of value on it. We genuinely don't know. There are really no answers, just like the game. It's meant to be like, yeah, maybe sometimes there are no answers when it comes to a universe we don't understand that is unforgiving and terrible. And that's kind of the vibe here. It ends and we get a end credit thing where it's actually really quick credits, since it, again, wasn't a huge studio project. It's a Markiplier thing. And on the side, on the blood in the background, because it's the surface of the blood ocean, Polaroids of everyone that worked on this, float by. And so the crowd was very excited to see, all the people in Mark's circle kind of float by, or all the different guests and things that were in the movie. Very cute. Love that bit. Yeah, again, all the fans there seemed really happy with it and loved it a lot. I love eldritchy stuff, so I enjoyed it tremendously. But I think the people that were with me who were like, it's all right, I think they're probably right. The first hour or so is all build up and nothing really scary happens. It's like setting the mood, which is fine, because I'm not a big fan of jump scares and crazy stuff. I like being like, all right, what are we doing? We're building to something. I do understand, though, why those people really like the ending, because a lot of stuff happens in the last hour, like a lot. And it's understandable. It really builds up, and yeah, I can get how you can not like one part and then love another part. It's kind of like Mandy in that way, where Mandy has a really slow build up, and then Nick Cage goes insane for the last, 25, 40 minutes. It's crazy. It's that kind of vibe. I had a good time. I think it was a fun movie. My favorite part, honestly, though, was after the credits, a screen goes black and it holds black for a while. So everyone in the theater sat there like, oh, something gonna happen? And then all the lights turned on and the music of the theater turned on. It was like, bum, 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 bum. And it got a laugh. It was pretty good. There was a lot of tension, is what I'm saying. The movie ends with tension, and you're waiting for her release, and that moment was the release, and I thought that was pretty cute. So yeah, that's the movie. Hopefully you had fun watching this. If you go see it, let me know what you think in the comments. I enjoyed. I had a good time. I wish only the best for Mark and his future endeavors with this kind of stuff. It's neat to see. It's genuinely neat to see.